glad to be back as we are ready to dive into the second half of our group stages. Round number 3 is on the table, and we are going to head over to our West region group matches. We talked a little bit about them before the break. It will be Hazelwood West High School, the Wildcats, taking on Confluence Prep Academy and the Titans. And Jesse, you gotta say, Hazelwood right now is currently at 2-0, and they haven't dropped a map. This team has looked like they are the best in this West region at this immediate moment, and the one team that stands in their way right now is Confluence Prep.
Yeah, right now Hazelwood is definitely the favorite going into this game, just because they haven't dropped a map so far in the group stage, and that is an impressive feat. Confluence yet to get a series win on the board. They did get a map win during their first game, but yet to actually get that series win over the line. So that will be something they're looking for here, as if they lose this game, they are guaranteed to be fourth in the group. And if my calculations are right, that is a date with the defending champs potentially in Francis Howell. That is not a first round playoff game that I would personally want. So they have the ability here to maybe change their fortune. Obviously, it also depends on how the other game goes in this group, but this could be an opportunity for them to at least give themselves a chance to not play Francis Howell right away.
Not entirely in the Titans' hands at this point, but they did have a 2-1 loss previously, so you have that extra map should tiebreakers happen. And honestly, that could work out in their benefit, but the first step does need to be taking down Hazelwood West, which on paper, Jesse, looks pretty dang near impossible if 3 other teams haven't been able to set them back a mark. And I looked at the series, like the map scores individually as well. 3-0s, 2-0s, 2-0s again, like complete shutouts of maps. Hazelwood West has clearly been cooking something. It's only now that we get to see what it is against Confluence.
And like you said, it's not like it's just the fact, oh, they're winning 2-0 in the series. They're winning 2-0 in the maps. They're winning 3-0 in the maps. They are ensuring that they keep the perfect streak alive. And hey, maybe they could have the perfect group so far. But hey, we'll see if Confluence Academy can bring it to them, get their first win in the group stage. And it would be their only win. But hey, better late than never. Will be Oasis. That will be our first map. My personal favorite control maps. I won't lie. There's a lot of variety that you can get here as we enter into Oasis University for our first round.
Out of all of the mini maps in Oasis subsets, University tends to lean toward its more brawly type, where we see our Reinhardts that Burb is showing us, or our Arissas that we saw a little bit in our previous series. As of now, Confluence Titans don't seem to be wanting to go in that general direction. Nothing wrong with that. Hazelwood West High School opting for more traditional pedal to the metal. What we've seen, literally every team who has won so far has opted to go for this style of gameplay. It's yet to fail. We'll see if Hazelwood West can follow the narrative.
Yeah, if they can continue that narrative on, we could have ourselves a few contenders here going into today. This Confluence composition, it is not traditional, but they're going to have a lot of the time the Mercy Pocket either on dead sets or Gutbuster to ensure that they get a lot. Oh, that is quite a compliment.
I love that name.
That way.
I love that name. I gotta say.
It's going to be a lot of damage, but yeah, it takes a
yeah, it would be Toad's mech that instead gets busted. Unfortunately for Confluence, Kato Kujo pulling out this adventure, and you can kind of see Hazelwood West composition. They move as essentially a ball of death. Confluence found themselves separated and got pulled over one by one, resulting in a Hazelwood first match.
Hazelwood just roll right in. Like you said, it is just a snowball going downhill. And if you walk in front of it, you're just going to get crushed and go on for an uninvited sledding trip. So already some changes coming in for Confluence. Gutbuster will be on the Reaper to try and deal with Burb a little bit more head on here in the front, but it's their Mercy that's in danger.
Zirius, she got so incredibly low, but was add-on heals her up just in time. Burb, though, looking to take the diva on a trip. Toad, thankfully, doesn't go too incredibly far. You need to be more concerned about Gutbuster, who just got a bit destroyed from the ground underneath him. Potato Cujo has done excellent work on this venture. It's a hero that has very small windows of vulnerability, and Potato Cujo plays that to his advantage so far. This fast-paced sort of gameplay where Hazelwood hasn't even needed to go in so much, just how much the venture player has been doing.
No, they haven't really had to do a whole lot. They're just chilling out this choke. You've seen some of the DPS for Confluence go over to the flank side and try and challenge Potato Cujo on the venture, but it's been all for naught. They've done a great job of winning their 1v1s. It's one of the aspects of Venture's kit that really shines, and now these ultimates truly become as part of the play as Bird is waiting to unleash the shadow.
Herb has the Earth Shatter, and Toad gets finding themselves the back against the wall. It's always these Reinhardt and May duos, Burb and Nova, working in perfect synergy to win these fights for the team. And it's so impressive to see Hazelwood West do this, and it's no surprise why they're undefeated.
Yeah, this is dominance so far, and it's just because Hazelwood, they're doing everything right. They're ensuring that they're tanking the spot, they're playing aggressive, and they're not really allowing Confluence to do a whole lot. We enter the final few percentages here. The Red Side will go out to try and open this up.
Dead Set's one of the last hopes for this team. It doesn't get all that much done. Instead, Pyro and Inferno found the tactical nuke, the ultimate of Toad. Will result in a Confluence split, but you gotta say, Jesse, they've lost quite a few players in this back half of the fight. Hazelwood have numbers and ultimates on their side. Tectonic Shock for being one of them. That's full support down his hands of Potato Cujo. Again, this venture player has continued to pop off, and he's not stopping anytime soon. Hazelwood West High School looking clean on this first round of University. Verb, that wasn't necessary.
That was rude. Like, rude. That I understand it, but hey, we've all been there, right? End of the round, you might as well just press it. You might, for funsies, you know that Confluence Academy are not going to be able to get there in time, but yeah, that was maybe a little personal there from Burb at the very end of the run, but all in good fun at the end of the day. This composition, I love it because it is speed, and even more speed. As you have the Lucio from Pyro Inferno, they can just be on traditional speed. They can use the amp to really speed Burb around. And then you have the ring as well from Teaser, which just continues that amplification of how quickly Burb can just be in the back line of Confluence Prep Academy and just run through the team. The Reaper, yes, it is a step towards countering it, but it is not the complete answer.
You know, like your dog and your cat, like they'll get really hyper when you call them zoomies. Burb
Yes.
has the zoomie. That is Burb right now, thanks to Pyro Inferno and Teaser. Like you're in their Toad and a chance at all. Got pinned against the wall before Confluence can make that space happen. And I like the swaps, the adaptations that they're going. They understood that the Diva wasn't the play, but again, it just doesn't stand a match to this close range damage, the speed ball that Hazelwood have going.
I don't think the dive is going to work here. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know if the dive works into this unless you can confirm that, hey, Toad Not Toad can go in and get a lot of value onto either Pyro or Tease. But the issue is they're running with their tank the entire time. Look at that. Ball goes down. They try and get out. They get boop. Team fight done.
It was a nice little pinch at the choke there. Burbs and, well, alongside Potato Cujo stand at opposite ends. They're so close that you just can't run away. You're automatically in those sight lines. The Maywall went up from Nova, and this is just textbook Reinhardt gameplay.
There'd be a lot of Reinhardts. LH Cloudy would be proud. To be a historian of Overwatch to understand that one. But
Ooh, I like
this is Ryan gameplay at their finest, and that's a little unlucky. Because they were on a great flank angle. It's just Confluence didn't go that way. Oh, well, they...
Like, this is great. You're going a different direction, but the shadow does get blocked. Whether it was intentional or not, that's the reality of it. And no one just came the level Potato tears Confluence to shreds. That was a whole chaotic series of events, but Hazelwood didn't even flinch.
And I'm pretty sure the Reptile got blocked by Nova being an ice.
Yeah.
That is absolutely tragic if you are Confluence. The one thing you needed to go right, they're going to try out the new Sombra. The new Sombra, admittedly, the new Sombra is not great.
It's a change to get used to, and it's very rare that you're gonna have an opportunity to practice it so far. With how well Potato Cujo is doing as well, Venture eats Sombra for breakfast. Like,
Yep,
this is
already.
just not, this is not it. Hazelwood West now need to win one more fight, but they're just gonna take the action. Confluence, not even allow them to get a touch. Gutbuster is down in the spawn room and complete the spawn door touch challenge. Why don't you? Near flawless gameplay. How is it Hazelwood West to win them out of Oasis?
I know we said they wanted the flawless, but that was flawless to the nth degree. Just a phenomenal showing of how good Rush can be with the Venture in play. Yeah, the Sombra is just not good in general right now. They were good until they nerfed her into the earth. But yeah, that was exactly what the Wildcats wanted to start. And sadly for the Titans, it is just kind of how today's went, right? They have a lot of great ideas going into these fights. The compositions, they're a little unorthodox, but it's not like they're
Mhm.
completely out of the question on if they can work. And just for one reason or another, this can't get the maps to go their way.
And this is something we talked a little bit about at the beginning of the day is especially in high school scholastic gameplay in general, teams are more likely to stick with what they're comfortable playing, not with what is objectively good or
Yep.
meta in that sense. And that's what Titans esports have opted to do so far. It hasn't necessarily worked out in their favor, and I don't think it's because they're doing anything wrong per se. Wildcats are just doing too many things right for the Titans to just not even have a say. It's like a conversation, but Wildcats are just yelling over everything that Titans are trying to get into this. And it's that kind of oppression that Hazelwood West has showcased throughout their entire group stage run today. This map, though, Jesse, is going to be an interesting shakeup because not Paradiso is our second map. We're heading to Brazil. Is not only the often least favorite hybrid map in the game, but also it is so incredibly difficult to attack on multiple of these points. It's defensively favored to one of the highest degrees because of the high grounds and the difficulty to reach these defensive positions.
Yeah, if you thought Midtown was hard,
Oh,
Paradiso is even harder. And you have to run rush. You basically have to run rush and then just go straight to the point and bunker down in a corner. Or you have to play dive extremely well. There's a reason why not a lot of teams like to play it. Just
mhm.
being honest, not a lot of teams like to play it because it is incredibly difficult to play on attack and incredibly, I don't want to say easy, but simple to play on defense. You
Yeah.
play the high ground, right? You play the high ground, you play your rotations. You can typically get 2 fights off that point, even if you lose the first fight. You normally have enough time to get back before that point is completely captured. So it will be a lot of pressure onto the attacking side in both rounds to figure out how they want to approach this first fight. And I guess we'll see for the Wildcats. Do they just stick to this run? Do they stick to the rush? That it's looked phenomenal so far, even though it's not, the most normal for the first 2 phases of this map.
Mhm.
Or will they, will they try and change it up?
Yeah, and Hazelwood West looked so much to their venture player in that specific map. I mean, the amount that Potato Cujo was able to do on venture, like it's not easy, but you can make venture work on a lot of these points. There's small rooms that are almost like breaks through these like deadly corridors you have to work your way through. Venture just lives there, and you're walking into their territory. It's not a spot that you want to be as an opponent in the slightest. And I think Wildcats fundamentally aren't going to struggle too much on this map. I do want to look at the other side and Confluence, though, because their composition, as you said, unconventional, but it's often one that causes more chaos. This map will give them more room. They're not going to get just stuffed, as we saw on
Yeah.
Oasis. There's a lot more open space. They can expand more and cause that chaos that they've been looking to do.
It is a more subtle variance of the chaos comp, right? Like the chaos comp we traditionally think of as, Wrecking Ball, a Tracer, and maybe like an Echo or a Pharah in the mix. This is kind of like the tamer version of that, where yes, you have the
Mhm.
Diva. It's not movement on steroids like Wrecking Ball is a lot of the time, but you still have great mobility. You have 2 DPS that can really cause some mayhem with the Reaper, more of a countermeasure to the opposing tank. The Junkrat, just the randomness of those nades going through and the boops from concussion mines. So it's a lot of the same principles. They just haven't really, like you said, been able to do that because the Wildcats just stuffed them in
Mhm.
those chokes and they really never got to spread the field a lot. And that is something, like you said, they can really do on a map like this to where the map is giant, right? This first point is ginormous. Streets phase can be very wide at certain points. This could be the time where Titans really start to take advantage.
Yes. And one thing I do want to see from them too is Gutbuster specifically, I think swapped heroes about 6 or 7 times throughout the map of Oasis there. And while having flexibility like that is great, but we have seen from other teams today that if you don't stick on those heroes long enough, you don't have a chance to build up an ultimate ability. And those ultimate abilities are the things that give you these big advantages to win fights. And if you're constantly switching back and forth, you're adapting almost too much into the game of Overwatch, then you lose out on some other successful opportunities that you just aren't really able to take. And I think Gutbuster has the potential to show up strong on these heroes, but they just never stuck it out quite long enough to get that success they want.
Yeah, and it's that dilemma, right? It's like, yes, you
So
want
hard.
to. It's so hard when you try and play against this comp because they love, like, hey, as soon as I see you, W, we're going in, team. And you don't really have time to think of your own plan, right? Because usually, let's say your team loses the previous fight, when you're responding, like, hey, we have this, we think they have this. How do we want to go at this? And by the time they're answering that question, they're already getting pushed. So it's so hard for Confluence to really get a game plan together other than
Yep.
we need to counterpunch what is coming at us, which is so incredibly hard to do when it is played to the level that the Wildcats are right now. We are now going into the game for Paris, so the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. I don't know if I've never been to Brazil. Don't know if I ever will, but hey, this part of town doesn't look, it looks like a fun time.
Colorful. Like,
It is very
visually,
colorful.
I think this is my favorite map. I gotta say, like, look at all these super fun, bright colors. It's so pretty. You have the beach off of one coast. Can't really see it in this shot, but it's a great map. Visually, to play, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. This is one of those games that I'll queue ranked, and then this will be the map, and I'm like, oh, do I really have to play this now? It's just unfortunately a newer map within the game of Overwatch. The newest within Hybrid, at least, and hasn't really adapted to the style of Overwatch 2 just yet. We'll be Confluence Academy on the defense right now, and they have made a couple more swaps here as we wanted. Toad, more specifically, being on the Doomfist, Jesse. Wait a
Yeah, the
minute.
Doomfist on defense. Huh. I don't mind it because again, this defense, this map is just a little whack in its own right. So I guess some whack choices are bound to happen, and this is why I haven't even talked about Hazelwood already because they're still trying to figure it out, and that's the benefit of being on the tech. But look at this. This is very aggressive.
Oh my god. Potato! No, on the bench. I mean, I'm kind of sad, but he's doing so well on the Orisa. I'm okay with this. You know, you go from a little mole rock muncher to a battle cattle and make it seem like it was not a problem at all. Bird following up on the Reaper, and this is just a full frontal wall of damage that put Confluence through the shredder.
I love how where we were hyping up like, yeah, this is a very hard point.
Oh,
All that fun stuff, but that. Yeah, they just like, no, we're just gonna cap it and have like 6 minutes going into streets phase. That is that's something.
and I think that what ended up happening too is Confluence weren't ready for this more like rush-based composition. This is so commonly a dive map where you want some form of verticality. Orisa doesn't have that. Reaper doesn't have that. This is just Hazelwood West setting the tempo in their own ways, sticking to picks that are comfortable for them, but also conform more to the meta, that optimal strategy that we've been seeing a lot more in the pro levels of play.
Yeah, you have to be able to be adaptable. I love that. Hey, we're gonna run something other than dive on the dive map. It catches Confluence off guard, and they will still stick to the dive, but more of a conservative one now with Toad on the Winston. It's not as boom or bust as Doomfist can be, especially like even at the top tier play. If you're not one of the top like 2% Doomfist players, it's incredibly difficult to get anything out of it. So I like, but yeah, go.
I got Buster, found himself on the losing end of a couple mines, and Now Pyro Inferno following it up with the second. No DPS players available for Confluence at the immediate moment. Darius is looking for a res, but she couldn't find a safe angle to bring a player back to life. Hazelwood West continue to just push that pedal to the metal. There is no stopping this team, and that part will be captured yet. 6 minutes again to move through just one final objective of part of you.
This is an unreal pace. I know we've said that more than once.
Yeah.
This is an unreal pace on this. Like, if they continue this momentum, it might be the fastest cap I've ever seen on this map in organized play. This is incredible so far from Hazelwood, and it just feels like Confluence. Like, even they shut down the Riptire of that fight, right? They're able to shut down the Riptire by dead set. But instead, they still can't break through because of the constant damage already. God.
Verb is in there, and that's 3 with the Death Blossom. Nova helped group them all together, and his bird chop them all down to size. I mean, Hazelwood have such good understanding of how to play off each other. The fight planning is there, and Confluence have no choice but to try to swap one last time and get one last touch on the card.
They have to come primal rage next to spawn just so they actually have a chance, and there goes Gutbuster Assault.
Oh, Nova, the ultimate shutdown Gutbuster. The chance he saw the vision, he's like, guys, I can do this, but Nova's Riptire turns the corner and blows it up just before the damage can be dealt. Hazelwood are marching this payload on home, even though Potato Cujo goes down. Does not matter. Hazelwood West get the result they needed, and Jesse, that is one of the fastest captures of Paradiso that I think I've ever seen.
They added 34 seconds. That is unreal for this map. And crazy for any map along that line for Hybrid and Escort. But 4.5 minutes is unbelievable pace. And I know what I'm maybe jumping ahead a little bit here, but I know we talked about, like, hey, could they be a challenger? I think this is them saying we are a challenger. We are definitively a challenger to Francis Howell to win this thing. So obviously we got a long ways to go until we hit that point, but this has been a phenomenal start for them on this map. And like the Titans, like, oh, it's Spotty, so we're gonna run dive, and then they're like, wait, guys, what are we doing?
This is not normal behavior. Like, there's certain we talk about Overwatch being a game of adaptability, and you want to run like a number of things on different maps, right? You want to be flexible. Paradiso is one of those few maps that dive is just the only reasonable option. If you play anything else, you would be called insane for it. But because of the pace that the Wildcats have set and their level of just I don't know what word to say at this point other than just coordination, synergy, and deathballiness. To just march up to the Titans' door and knock it over in rapid succession through these objectives. Like, the Titans never really had an opportunity to get set up because there was always a spot player from the Wildcats there to shut it down. And while the Titans tried, they moved through several different heroes and options. They're trying to counter out what their opponents are throwing at them. It's just so difficult to do when you have your backs up against the wall as much, and eventually you lose so many fights in a row. The Wildcats have a strong ultimate advantage, and you've hit a point of no return.
Yeah, you hit that point where their ultimate economy is just ridiculous, where they can just use one out here, one out there. They shut down the opposing Riptire. They shut down the opposing Death Blossom. Like, the lifelines for the Titans got shut down because of the fact that the Wildcats were just able to continuously pump through the ultimates. And they weren't afraid to use them, which there's some teams at the top level who are always like, oh my God, like, we need to make sure we actually get value out of it. So I'm going to wait to use it for fights so I can actually get value. I'm also guilty of that, to be honest, when I play. You know that very well.
I do.
And they're not afraid. They're not afraid, like, hey, we're just going to pop this. Why not? And if we get anything out of it, awesome. If not, we had to use it. We can just continue the ultimate rotation. So that is a great trait to have, admittedly, for the Wildcats. For the Titans, man, at this point, you just try and get something out of this map, even if it is just momentum, even if it is just to build morale. It is an incredibly tough situation to go against.
The Titans are giving it their best swing and doing what they can, given the environment. But Hazelwood have just they haven't dropped a map, they haven't dropped a point all day. Like, this is a team that is riding the highest of highs right now, and there's pretty much nothing that can knock them down from this point. But I wanted to go back to a quick point that you said, Jesse, of the Wildcats managing their resources correctly, their cooldowns, identifying when they're taking fights and stuff like that. I'm on a collegiate team myself. Granted, we're not very good. This team looks significantly better. You don't understand how hard it is to communicate these things as a team to prepare with how fast the game of Overwatch goes. Hazelwood West are talking to each other. They're making sure they're on the same page within the span of like 10 seconds. Like, hey, let's use this ult here and we're going to push at this spot. Okay, cool. They execute it. They move on. They prepare for the next thing. And that is one of the hardest parts to learn about playing team Overwatch. And just by watching, you can see how good these things are working.
Yeah, they're definitely better than my team when I played. Granted, I was on JV. I was on JV as well, but it's like, yeah, we were not the greatest at on ASU JV. That is for sure. But yeah, it's a great start, and it's a lot of great coordination, and the fact that that included a role swap. It's not like, oh, you went over from tank to flex DPS, which is what a lot of off tanks kind of transitioned to when we went from 6v6 to 5v5. No, you go over from hits and from DPS, like just normal hits game, over to tank, and vice versa. That's an incredibly tricky change that they've really shown really well. We have fixed the issue with apparently an Ethernet issue with one of the PCs, but that has been fixed enough. The attack starts here for Confluence, Prep Academy, and Bird.
What is this?
This is
what is
this? Wow, that's awesome.
They just used the pedal platform to lift Verb well high. No one's looking up there at all. Confluence were caught off guard. Zarius goes down. Dead sets to follow. At least gets a trade for his troubles. All the meanwhile, like, this is unconventional, to say the least, out of Hazelwood, but they're making it work. I gotta give it to Confluence, though. They have the resurrection. They had an advantage in the eliminations. Potato Cujo and Verb aren't just hit like they are now. What is this? Oh, Confluence would be in it if it wasn't for those two.
What is life? What is this game? Like, the fact that I love seeing Junker Queen out. Junker Queen, like, very quietly has become a pseudo meta pick on certain maps. This is not typically on that map list. It's usually, Flashpoint and Push that we've been seeing Junker Queen occasionally. But they do get the res off. Cleanse goes off as well, so it's at least a 5v5 again. But this Pharah has a lot of people shooting her at the
Gutbuster just looks more like a pincushion at this point with how many bullets are being peppered into him. Nova, though, that would get that elimination. That healing that the Pharah needed is now gone. Anon, though, still grabs 2 final blows as a support player. Confluence will respawn quicker. Perhaps there's an opportunity, but there's a threat that lurks above Jesse Bird. Yet.
Yeah, that is the one part of this equation they have not figured out quite yet. And traditionally, having the Pharah isn't a horrible idea. It's very tricky, typically, for a Widow to hit. But Burb is not your typical Widow. That we have learned so far during this. They are not your typical Widow. They're hitting a lot of great shots onto the Pharah, and they will just give up on it. They are going to go to the Sojourn to have more of a direct correlation.
I like the D.Va too. You have a bit more kind of poking pressure, but it's just Potato Cujo. He'll just walk right in there. No fear, nothing really to back down, and all Toad can really do is try to trade it out with the remaining members of the team. Fights will start to get scrappy, but Toad didn't have that backup, the healing, or the damage, just because of how much Potato Cujo was able to get done before the tank was in position.
Yeah, they just got so much done before the tank got in position, and this is now a spot. Well, you got about a minute and a half left. You have the Riptire available. But the issue, this time it's been Nova. Nova's just having the time of their life in the backline of Confluence. I think they're really starting to get countered now, but during those first 2 minutes, they did whatever they wanted. They're still getting things.
Nova's just existing. Okay, well, goodbye. That does not like Nova. Understood. Just commit the whole ultimate to getting rid of the Tracer. Which is a great situation, but no one in Confluence can get killed for the next couple of seconds.
Oh.
It's all because of Hojo. Confluence painted in purple. The best shot that they've had in this map so far was gone with one play.
And the fact that they had the knowledge that, hey, The Kiriko is not here. It is the one person that is not here for Confluence. They have no cleanse. So they can't just cleanse away the negative effects that the Rampage brings, and they're able to lock it down. And the Valkyrie being used by Zerio is that is a rough exclamation point on that fight. With one true fight to go before we hit over.
And Nova's still lurking in the back line. He's just a pest to anything that Confluence wants to do. The Pulse Bomb doesn't quite stick, but Gutbuster is down. Burb floating in the high ground somewhere in the realm of Paradise. So Potato Kuja moving towards the back line. That's 2 down to the tank player of Hazelwood West. 4 seconds remaining. You got one more push to make this happen, but it's scattered, and there's no one to get on the point. Hazelwood West, flawless execution of the group stage as they'll lock in the #1 seed for the West region.
Yeah, #1 seed should be there is Hazelwood. Yeah, it's exactly how you want to end the group. As this ult, yeah, was just massive. And the fact that I have a feeling that Valk was on panic mode, thinking that, hey, maybe I could get away, not realizing that due to the Rampage effects, they were going to die. Like, there's no physical way for them to get out of it unless it was one huck of a cleanse from spawn from the Kiriko. But yeah, it just didn't happen this time around. Wildcats, like I said, perfect in the group. And the Titans, if our predictions of what the bracket will look like are correct, they have a pretty rough first round game against the defending champs.
Yeah, so the Titans will lock in that 4th seed as well. Of course, they'll be able to move on after our break too, and they'll have that downtime and be able to reset before they head into it. But having to look at playing what looks from what we've seen on broadcast so far, I want to say Hazelwood top 2 team. I can't say which in the top 2, but I think Hazelwood's up there along with Francis at the moment. So having to play both of those teams back to back is never a good feeling. But I want to see Confluence go into this and hold their heads high. They played their own game until the end, really, and never gave up on what they thought would work and what was good for them. And that's a great mentality for a team to have. And I'm very glad they get that experience on stage.
No, the fact that, yeah, you still got to play on stage, which is, something a lot of players have never been able to do. Like, I haven't been able to play on a stage like that. So you get to say, hey, it happened. Obviously not the result you wanted. And like I said, now you have the lunch break coming up. Like, you have that to kind of just sit down, eat some food, recharge. Probably a lot of them getting up a little earlier than they typically want to on the weekend as well today. So, hey, recharge, get some VOD review in, and hey, anything is possible when it comes to knockouts. We've had some Cinderella stories before, and I wouldn't be shocked if we saw another one potentially today.
Hey, it ain't over until it's over, and the day is far from that. We're not even halfway through, as a matter of fact. We have one more round of group stage to be played before we head on to our playoff bracket and our lunch break, of course, later on. So stay tuned, everybody. We're going to go ahead, get that game set up for us to go, and be back with the final part of our group stage today.